Say it ain't so. 82 of 82. It finally comes to an end. The season finale for the Philadelphia 76ers is today as they host the Chicago Bulls in a meaningless game all around the Eastern Conference where everything is set for the postseason. The 76ers will not be participating in for the first time since 2016-17. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Pregame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365 alongside Rich Hoffman for our final game of the season.
Last one.
At home and period. Bree is producing. All of you in the chat, early happy Sunday to everybody for this matinee that we're going to talk about, of course. Leading into this one, we'll talk about it post-game as always and give our thoughts on, and we'll just prepare you right now. Probably not going to talk a lot about the game. It's going to be more of a season overview and outlook on what happened this season, how things got here, and where do we go from here. And yeah, it's gonna be one of those busy ones. We'll get our Bet365 pick a little bit later. We'll check in on the important games out west because that's still very huge for seeding today as those teams go after it. We'll give you some things there from the press conferences this morning from the Sixers and the coaches as well before the game, because normally, as many of you know, normally the day after is the exit interviews for the players and the coaches, or maybe just the players and coaches and general manager, or get together a little bit later for one more press conference. But the Sixers decided, I'd imagine because the season has been wrapped up for quite some time now, they decided to start their exit interviews this morning before the game. Which is odd, Rich.
They've done it before. Well, okay, I don't think they've ever done before the last game.
Yeah, that's what I mean, before.
They've done it after the game.
After? Got it. Especially the big names, at least.
Yeah.
Especially the big names. Before the game?
I've been told, you get told, all right, Joel, after they lose to Miami in the playoffs, guess what? He's going to talk for 25 minutes after the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is your postseason exit interview press conference with him. He's not doing it again tomorrow. Yeah, it seems like they're doing some of them a little bit earlier with Paul George kicking things off. Look, they've had a lot of time to plan for this.
Yes, they did.
They've had. So, the tweets are starting to trickle in. Did anything stick out from what Paul George said?
Well, we have one right away from Derek that we have that Bree has ready for us to throw up there on the screen. And basically, Derek is tweeting out some stuff. Kyle also tweeting out some things from Paul George, and you've also seen some of the other Sixers beat writers putting things out there. But first, Paul George says, I think we can be a team in the future that can compete for a championship. Also, on what needs to happen beyond health. I think continuity, identity, I think that's what we got to find as a team. He also pointed out, as Derek continues, Jarrett McCain and Justin Edwards, as well as possibility of the top 6 pick as key additions whose development can complement their older core next year. And that's what Derek started off with Paul George. So I'll go to the first quote of thinking that in the future they can compete for a championship. Well, that's what you came here for, and you should. That's what you, all kidding aside, right, dropped the podcast mid-season because you wanted to focus on the championship. Now, that wasn't realistic in our opinion. And maybe it wasn't for him, but he felt like that was the right thing to say. We did clown him a little bit for that because it wasn't the right thing to say at that point. Say something different. Focus on what you need to focus on in that moment, but don't point that out. That said, future championship stuff, they got a long way to go to prove to people once again that they are a championship team that can compete for that right. A long way to go.
Look, I think that's the ultimate goal, but using the word championship, like, let's just start next year. If Paul George is back and if this team has reloaded and is healthier, let's just start by being a competent basketball team, right? A normal basketball team. I like what he says about continuity and health and playing together. That's step one that they did not accomplish this year. They were so far from a championship team this year.
Yes.
And hey, if that happens and you start to play well and you're one of the top teams in the East, okay, then we can start talking about those things. But, Paul George, I believe, used the championship word when he went on his podcast hiatus when it was clear the season was just, is going down the tubes, man. So yeah, just get to a normal, a normal basketball team next year, and let's see what happens.
So again, for him, I'll like Rich just said, and I'll say it for myself. What he should have said was, yes, the continuity part, that is certainly one. The identity, we need to do that. Then we need to prove to ourselves, our organization, and our fan base, if he wants to go contending and all that stuff, that we can be, again, a viable player in the Eastern Conference in terms of the conference and getting to the playoffs. Don't go with the championship part, because that is where it's going to get you in trouble, and that's what's going to get you, some pushback overall. The pushback, period, overall on what's going on with this whole thing. So that's what he should have said. And this, again, like we said, this is not Indiana. This is not OKC. This is not Los Angeles. This is Philadelphia. Not to say that they don't do the other things, because there are some great beat writers and beat reporters in those other cities that cover those teams. It's going to be really picked apart here in Philadelphia, especially when you have a season as poor as this one was, to say things like that. So he really has to get some training, some PR training of how to answer some questions.
It's been a long year for him on that front.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So he's the first one. I assume Tyrese Maxey's also going to speak.
Yeah, so far
later.
I've only seen George, I've seen Nurse, and I have seen Tyrese Maxey's gotten started, but I've also seen Eric Gordon. It is what it is at this point. But Kyle says that Tyrese Maxey tells reporters that he's been told he probably needs at least another month off before he can get back to basketball again, as he continues to deal with the pain and swelling with his finger. And with that, that's why it was a joke for us when we were all sitting there talking about, hey, when is he going to get back on the floor? And they're talking about, yeah, we're ramping it up as we go on this 6-game road trip where you might possibly see him somewhere in there. No, you aren't.
No.
I mean, the finger was bad, man. And there was no point of even exposing him to any further injury whatsoever by putting him out there on the floor. It just wasn't necessary. So again, the message not being relayed properly, it just wasn't there, Rich. And this is another one now that he says he needs another month. If you believe him that he needs another month, just be honest. If he had the bad finger, he had the bad finger and he couldn't play. There's no need to sugarcoat that.
Yep. Look, and they're going to need to work on their messaging next year. They also just need to get healthier too, so they don't have to make these messages, right? Where the message can just be, hey, yeah, we're playing tonight, right? We have Joel, we have PG, we have Tyrese. Yeah, they're all on the court tonight. Cooper Flagg, he's playing too. We don't have to worry about the message on that as well. Look, I mean, again, Devon, everything went wrong for these guys this year, right? Where we didn't love the messaging, and we didn't love, some of the rotational stuff. We didn't love how their defensive schemes were, but they just weren't healthy. That is the biggest part of this season. Hopefully that changes next year. I mean, we've seen it before, right? I know Memphis is probably not the best example right now, considering what just happened to their coach and, all the chaos for them down the stretch, but they were pretty much the Sixers last year, where they just got decimated by injuries. I remember the Sixers playing them late in the season last year, and they were playing guys that we had never heard of, and it's not too dissimilar to what the Sixers have done over the past few weeks. Well, they got healthy, and yes, Taylor Jenkins got fired at the end of the year, but they've been a playoff team. They have been a good team for most of this year. So the year-over-year bounce back is possible. I think some of that is going to depend on not only if the Sixers get the pick, but what pick they do get. I think that could affect their plans moving forward. Who do they keep? Are you able to keep Yabu and Grimes? Are you able to keep one of them? Is there a bunch of that? But I think the big thing is, man, we got to see less injuries next year.
Without question. Where is you? So with that, as we talk about that, your trust level overall with the organization going into this offseason, whether it's the players like Paul George, somebody like that. We can't really say much about Joel Embiid because we don't know how he's going to come back from that injury. But Paul George,
we're probably not going to hear from him too,
right?
Paul George, the surgery was so recent.
Paul George coming back from his injury. Do you feel the same as you did when the signing and going into the season pre-injury happened, or do you feel a little bit more uncomfortable with him returning just because of, like, Vinny is in our chat, our GM, everybody knows Vince in the chat, how he feels about certain things with the Sixers. He says he's so out on Paul George. He's not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people He's only played in 41 games this season, half of the games this season. But in that 41 and the things that he has said, so many people have just distanced themselves away from Paul George.
So, and I understand that because he has been disappointing on some levels this year, and the experience has not been a ton of fun just because of the podcasting, and sometimes he just puts his foot in his mouth. I would say a lot of times he does that, but that is less important than him getting on the court and being healthier. I would say the real reason I'm disappointed with PG, and it's not even being disappointed in him, is just he is an older player, and when you sign him to that 4-year, $200 million contract, you're hoping that the first year is going to be the best year, right? So it feels like a wasted opportunity. Hopefully, not too much wear and tear on his body this year. I guess a decent amount of tear on his body this year, but he didn't play a lot of minutes is the point I'm making. Hopefully he can bounce back. And, I think Derek has mentioned this before, and I agree with it. Like, PG to me is a function of Joel, right? Like, Paul George is as much money as he is making, he is not going to be able to drag this team to a top 4 seed. And if you have a good Joel Embiid and you have, Joel and Tyrese playing off each other, and you drop Paul George into that environment that already was pretty good for a long stretch of last season, I think he has a chance to be a pretty good player. That environment did not exist at all this season. So am I crazy about some of the things he says? No. And I'm a little worried that he is getting older, and, what are the final few years of that contract going to look like? But to me, PG is a supporting player in that regard. I understand that he is part of the quote unquote big three, but I think for him to be at his best, he's going to need Joel to be at his best. And frankly, Tyrese playing off Joel and that environment for him to be kind of the final piece in that puzzle.
What about when you say that about having and needing Joel Embiid? Why can't he and Tyrese Maxey hold it down?
Well, I'm not sure he's that player anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was a stretch in, let's call it like
because you're still asking him to be the 2, not the 1. You're asking him to relatively be the 2, and that was in January when he had that fantastic month. But that was following the 9-3 month as a team that they had, where his month wasn't all that great. They get back to him having a really good January, but the record was still really, really subpar.
Yeah. And I would say when he came back, kind of like late November, early December, there was like a 7 or 8 game stretch where I thought he and Tyrese were playing acceptable basketball together, right? And they were playing good defense. That was, I think, the Sixers' best defensive stretch of the season. But the issue with PG, Devon, I mean, is that, like, if you require him to score, he's not getting to the rim really at all anymore. Like, those easier shots, they have declined in a way that is fairly predictable for an older player, right? You lose half a step and you rely more on that mid-range jumper. And yeah, so I think that the PG experience was not great this year, but I also think, like, he came here to be part of a team that was more of a finished product, and he didn't get that. So, by the way, I'm not making an excuse for him. Like, the idea that some people want to see him traded, if there is the right type of deal for him, I think that's perfectly fair. And the idea that a lot of people are annoyed by him, I'm just trying to lay out what happened this season,
Sure.
Which was disappointing from his end, but also I think was disappointing, and it was much more than him that was disappointing.
Yeah, it really was. It wasn't just him, but he certainly plays a big part in it because of who he is, how much money you paid him this offseason, what you expect from him as part of a big 3, quote unquote, big 3 for this franchise moving forward, and the likelihood that you probably can't trade him. So you're going to have to get used to seeing him in that uniform, and I hope they have the right mindset coming back, because it's going to be hella important for him to find a way for them to get together. I don't know what they can do in the offseason as a trio to get together and talk some things through, look at some film together, right?
They didn't really have a lot of film that they can use, right?
Yeah, they only have like 15 games in total, maybe 16 games in total.
You think they're going to, like, sit in a gym or in a film room, and they're saying, oh yeah, this is when we're losing by 30 to the Pistons without Cade Cunningham. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that play. Shouldn't do that play. Shouldn't do that.
But you know what, too? Go over every one of your plays that you had this offseason. This season together. Number one, it's not a lot. It's not going to take a lot of time. So you don't have to worry about scouring through too much. So ask the film people to get you every play that you guys had together this season. This is leadership, Rich. This is a big problem of what we talk about, right? You can't keep relying on bring P.J. Tucker in here. He's going to be a leader. Bring Marcus Morris in here. He's going to be a vocal leader. You need your best players to show some sort of leadership on this basketball team. That's just the bottom line. Yeah. Bottom line.
And look, and Yams is in the chat. He's saying that the PG signing was bad. I don't need to die on that hill. Yams, I agree. Right now, that looks like a very bad signing, and I don't know what you're going to be able.
Yeah, there's no debating that right now.
Yeah, and so I don't know what you're going to be able to do to get off that money, right? Because that is not one of the better contracts in the league. Now, hey, maybe a team gets desperate, right? Maybe a team says, Sixers were a complete mess. We're not a complete mess. And you're able to trade him for, I don't know, like okay value. I don't think my problem is
who's the OKC though that would do the Al Horford or the Kemba Walker deal.
Yeah, I don't know. And we have a full off season to get into
right.
That. So, I guess we haven't had PG conversations in a while because he has been out of the lineup. But nobody is saying that this has been a good signing so far. Nobody. But you do have to make the best of the situation. And I think there's a good chance that the best of that situation is going to be at least here to start next year. I think if PG plays well and maybe the Sixers are not very good next year or not, championship caliber as he's talking about, then maybe around the trade deadline, I think you might be able to get more value for him. I just think right now, there are a lot of questions about what he provides with 3 years left on that contract for big money.
How do you look at this team as far as leadership goes? As I just brought up, PJ Tucker and Marcus Morris and even Nick Batum, these role players that they rely on to have the leadership stuff. None of the three have at least carried themselves as being the leader, that vocal leader that they might need. You lead by example, yes, you go win basketball games, but you also have guys who are not necessarily the super braggadocious one. Let's say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's not a vocal leader like that, but he's probably a leader where he speaks and it means something. How do you feel about the leadership of the trio? If I had to guess, Tyrese Maxey would be the one. He's no longer a baby. He's in year 5. He's going into year number 6 of his career. He can be that, I think.
The question is, can he get to the level where he has that leadership, but also you need to be a 1A level player to command that level of leadership?
Well, he's at least a 2.
Oh, yeah.
2.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but he may not be 1A, but he's at least 2.
I say this all the time, too. What a weird season for Maxey where he's a little disappointing at the start of the year, but as we've mentioned, who was he playing with? What was the continuity around him? But yeah, he struggled. He had to take tougher shots as the top guy on the scouting report. And then at the end of the year, he struggled because his hand was messed up, right? Like he would have these nights where, he's shooting 1 of 12 from beyond the arc. And it's like, dude, your fingers are screwed up, man. You can't shoot the ball straight right now. I appreciate that you're out there. In the middle of the season, in what was kind of a lost season otherwise, dude, he had those 25 to 30 games where I thought he was playing better basketball than he's ever played. It was really impressive. He was elevating everybody around him. Now, I do want to couch that statement a little bit. He was playing in a good offensive environment with Yabu at the 5, which is not really sustainable for next year because, as we've seen, that's a disaster defensively. But still, like he was passing much better than he has. He was the top guy on the scouting report, getting to the rim, making threes, all that stuff. Felt like he was elevating his teammates. If he can get to that level consistently, I think he does have the leadership to, I think like his voice will carry even more and more weight. I mean, I think he's a great leader and a great locker room presence. But when I think of like the great leaders in recent NBA history, and I'm not saying Tyrese needs to get to this level, but the 2 guys that come to mind right away. Let me ask you if you can get these guys. I'm thinking like the 2 great culture setters when it comes to leadership over the last, let's call it 25 years, that basically have owned a franchise, and no matter who that franchise brings in, they adapt to that person, and it's that one guy who kind of sets that example.
Steph Curry.
That's one. 25 years.
25 years. So Steph Curry is 1 and Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan. Those are the two. I think those are the two where they are just a special case, right? Where I think they just completely elevated that in their franchises. No matter who came in, the Spurs had a way of playing. And yeah, sure, Pop and Manu and Tony also had a hand in that as well. But Tim Duncan was the guy that kind of set the standard for everybody. And Steph Curry does it differently, where I think that's more of the Maxey template, where there's just a joy that Steph plays with, right? And, it's not always perfect for Steph. When he's turning the ball over and doing some crazy stuff, there are some downtimes, but this culture of ball movement and fun and three-point shooting and joy, I feel like Maxey can get there at some point, but he's got to become that 1A player. I think Kyle made this point a lot this year, where Joel, he wasn't really available for a lot of this year, but you do have to be the guy that sets the example when you are the best player on the team. You do need to be more than the quiet leader, I would say.
You could see, and we saw it during the season, you point out the 25, 30 games that he had where he was fantastic, and we gave him that credit after criticizing him earlier in the year for not elevating things. You also look at him, and you could tell that when you talk about the joy on his face and that leadership part, that it wasn't there. And he even admitted at one point when he got back to being Tyrese Maxey and during that stretch, he even admitted that the joy was no longer there. And that's a hell of a thing to do when you suck the joy out of the life, right? All the good vibes that guy brings to the team, and it's just wiped out because of how bad things are around him, that even he can't change that. And it takes it away from him too. And that's crazy. That's crazy to think. Yes, it's been a hell of a season. Hell of a season. I got a text from a friend in the media, and he was like, the season from hell was over today. Finally, right? And that's a heck of a thing, man, when you take the joy from one of the guys that brings so much joy, not only in his locker room, but in the arena. And then other players around the league always talk about how much he smiles. You had another star player that played with him, an all-star Hall of Famer, and James Harden says, he's so happy. Sometimes I need him to stop being so happy so he can go out and kill those other teams. And they took that from him because of how bad they were this season. That's hard to do, man. That guy's so positive. That's hard to do.
I think we all need a mental break, he said. And I think that's right? And by the way, we're not getting a mental break. We will have shows 5 days a week.
100%.
Looking forward to next season. But at least we're getting a mental break from covering this team losing a bunch of games, because this is the last one.
Yeah. So, look, we have a lot to talk about with this. We was just trying to bring you some of the things that are being said in these exit interviews before the game. No longer the day after, or at least not this season. It's the day it's before the game on the same day. And that is the exit interviews for the Sixers today. We'll have more post-game because we're going to scour through some of the stuff that was said. We'll give you some of that in the post-game when we talk about it after the Sixers and the Bulls get after it. But just a lot of stuff out there, Eric Gordon, according to Austin Krell, we should catch him sometimes in the chat, Austin Krell. He said, Eric Gordon says, I haven't even thought about my player option for next year. His focus is on rehab. Lies. But he is a pro, right? Paul George doesn't know how to answer that. Eric Gordon knows how to answer that, Rich.
No.
Something very simple. Yeah, I haven't thought about it. Lies.
Some good, speaking of a player option, Kelly Oubre on the Sixers season. Good quotes from Kelly. Kelly's always a good quote. I enjoy him. When it rains, the sun's got to shine sometime. And I'm looking forward to the sun.
Yeah, he's going on the beach somewhere. Soon, like tomorrow. He's going to be on somebody's beach tomorrow because he is most likely going to make sure that he's on vacation sooner rather than later. All right. Some good basketball will be happening today, though, everybody. Let's talk about some of the West games, the playoff scenarios that are going to take place. Remember, we will be talking about Sixers after the game, more of a season outlook, some of the things that they said pregame in their exit interviews. We'll give you a lot more postgame because, of course, we run out of time as we have our pregame only for 30 minutes. But as we look at the seeding and the stakes today, Rich, as Bree has it up on the screen, thank you, Bree. So today, look at these teams, man, and how much separates them, which is 1 game or 2 games, and the right to be the 4th or the 8th seed.
That's unbelievable. I mean, you're hosting a first round series. You're in the top 6. You got home court advantage, or you're hosting a play-in game, man. That's a 1 game difference.
So right now, as Bree has it, the 4th seed as of right now is Denver. 5 is the Clippers, 6 Warriors, 7 Timberwolves, and 8 the Grizzlies. I'm guessing the Grizzlies are going to still be somewhere down the line, even though they have the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas are officially in the play-in tournament, so they have nothing. They cannot. They can only move up like a half a game or move up in front of Sacramento, Dallas at the moment, because those teams right now are playing each other in the 9-10 play-in. They have an identical record, both Sacramento and Dallas. So depending on how things go today for them, one will be hosting, one will not. We know that's important. So here's what you have. Denver takes on Houston. Houston has locked in the number 2 seed. Ime Udoka did say, Rich, that he's going to play his guys. Doesn't mean he will, but he did say it yesterday that he's going to play his guys. So right now, Denver has a really good shot of just simply winning that game. And the Clippers, they will play the Golden State Warriors.
He didn't play his guys the other night.
He did not.
Lakers.
He did not. Cam Whitmore had like almost 40. He had like 35, 36 in that game.
Very deep team.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't play at all.
He was my like bust out player of the year, and he can't even get on the floor.
I mean, in fairness, though, it's because the team is good, right? Like,
He's probably not going to be there next year.
No.
So
well, he's given the coach some shade.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. So, all right. So right now, the Nuggets can finish anywhere from 4 to 7. Clippers can finish in spots 4, 5, or 7. They cannot finish 6. Warriors can finish 6 or 7 at best. Timberwolves can finish anywhere from 4 to 8. And the Grizzlies can finish in 7 or 8. Clippers have the Warriors, as we mentioned. Minnesota.
That's a great game.
That's a great game. 3:30 game. Minnesota has the Jazz. They're going to win. And again, they can finish anywhere from 4 to 8. They're going to win. And the Grizzlies can finish in 7 or 8. They cannot go into the top 6 at all. Folks, there are going to be some fun basketball games today. Fun basketball games today on the Western Conference side for that reason. The East, everything is locked in. It's all set. New York is sitting their starters. Boston is sitting their starters. I went over the injury report. By the way, Kale he still holds the streak for consecutive games played without missing. I think he's at 556 or 566 or something like that. So he's going to play. He's going to start, and then he's going to quick foul and get out of the game.
Love it.
Yes.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. He's going to do it again. So congrats on that one.
It's going to hurt his averages.
It's going to hurt his averages, but that's okay.
That's all right.
All right. We'll focus on. We got bigger things in front right now going forward. But just your thoughts, man, real fast.
He should walk through like a big banner like Joe DiMaggio at one point. So whenever he gets that final number, 1,000. He like throws a basketball through the banner. Yeah,
his body is beat up too, man. He just plays through stuff. But Western Conference, just some fun games today, 4 through 8.
Yeah, I mean Clippers Warriors is the game, right? And I think the Clippers, they've been a scary team in recent weeks. And if Kawhi has his you-know-what together, I think they are a much scary. They're a scarier team in part because I still don't buy Harden in the playoffs as much. Like, I think what he has done this season has been really impressive. He's been asked to really have a ton of offensive responsibility, and he's making the best of it. But they need Kawhi, and we know Kawhi is one of the great playoff risers of our time. Like, he, in a playoff setting, his ability to just get that mid-range jumper on anybody one-on-one makes them a serious team. And the Clippers, their defense has been spectacular all season. Zubac, Jeff Van Gundy running it on the bench. So very excited to watch that game. And obviously, like, the Warriors, if they can get the right matchup, their record has been very good with Jimmy Butler. They did lose that weird game to the Spurs the other night.
Yep.
Which reminded me of last year. The Nuggets lost a game to the Spurs late, which kind of screwed them because that put them in the same bracket with Minnesota, which was their bad matchup. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be the same case. But yeah, Harrison Barnes getting his revenge the other night.
For the game winner.
But that's the one I'm locked in on is Clippers Warriors, because that that could really tilt the balance of the Western Conference. Those teams could go either way.
Yep, absolutely. So it should be fun when those are the 3:30 games. Van Gundy, I wonder if he gets an opportunity to coach somewhere next year as a head coach.
It's been honestly like a lot of people have not been talking about it. It's gone very under the radar this Clippers season and his role in it. But I agree, he's been excellent. It's crazy that he has not coached in, I mean, pretty close to
like 15
two
years?
decades. Yeah, like 17,
It's
18
amazing.
years. You know, he was in Houston like
Successful.
was it like 07, 08?
Yeah.
It was like his last year.
Yeah.
So for him to just,
Hey, Denver, if you don't keep Edelman as the head guy,
Yeah,
I would give him a call.
for him to pop out of the announcing booth and just pick it up right away and be an elite assistant coach for Ty Lue, who's a very good coach, I think, as well. Yeah, they've been well run all year.
Yep. Let's get to the pregame picks here on the Bet365 pregame pick segment, brought to you by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. Rich, I have no idea what to
This is a
go
tough
with.
one today.
So I went the other games that are important.
that's good.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic triple-double against that Houston team just because I kind of think because of what Ime said versus what he did the last game, not many people are going to play. I think Jokic will play enough where he can achieve that triple-double and Steph Curry to get 25 in that game against the Clippers this afternoon.
You've been cooking.
That's a plus 296 at Bet365. If you like that, maybe you want to tweak it a little bit, you can do so at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, that'll do it for us. When we come back after the game, we'll discuss some season outlook things with Rich and Bree and you, and we'll also talk about some of the things that went on in the game as well, some of the exit interview things that we may have missed while we were doing the show, things, everybody posting things while we're here doing the show with you. We'll check in with Colin Derrick from the arena, and we'll get it going. It's the season finale, everybody. It's coming to an end. 76ers hosting the Bulls in the final game of the season. We'll talk to you post-game right here on the PHLY Sixers post-game show presented by Bet365. Enjoy.
We all silly like the mayor.